My grandson tugged my sleeve. His hands were shaking. He slipped me a folded note, so small I almost missed it. "Don't read it here," he whispered. Later, alone, I opened it. 3 words, 1 number. Storage Unit 237. My chest tightened because I knew that place, and whatever was inside was never meant for me to find. My name is Richard Coleman. I'm 62 years old. I live in a quiet town called Brookhaven. What I discovered that day changed how I see my own family. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel if you believe family secrets always come out. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from right now? I didn't react when my grandson slipped me the note. That's what scares me most now, how calm I looked on the outside, while my insides were folding in on themselves. He was standing beside me in the kitchen, pretending to watch a cartoon, eyes flicking toward the hallway every few seconds, too alert for a child, too quiet. When he pressed the paper into my palm, his fingers were cold. "Don't read it here," he whispered. I closed my hand around it without looking. Years of habit kicked in. Smile, nod, act normal. In families, you learn early how to hide things in plain sight. I waited until everyone was busy. Then I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locking the door behind me. The note was folded twice. Careful, intentional. Check Storage Unit 237. That was it. No name, no explanation, just a number that made my stomach drop. I hadn't thought about that storage place in years. I told myself I'd forgotten it, that it was behind me, but memory doesn't work like that. It waits, it sleeps, and then a child hands you a note and it wakes up all at once. I flushed the toilet for noise, washed my hands, and tucked the paper into my pocket. When I stepped back into the hallway, my grandson was gone. The rest of the afternoon passed like a blur. Conversations floated around me, but I didn't hear them. I nodded at the right times, laughed when expected. Inside, my mind was already at the storage facility, walking the narrow lanes between metal doors, counting numbers I'd sworn I'd never count again. That evening, after everyone left, I found my grandson sitting on the back steps, knees pulled to his chest. "Did you read it?" he asked. "Yes," I said. His shoulders sagged like he'd been holding something heavy for too long. "I wasn't supposed to tell you. Who told you about it?" I asked gently. He shook his head. "I'm not allowed to say. Did someone show it to you?" Another shake. I sat beside him. "Did you see what's inside?" This time he nodded, just once. My heart skipped. "When? At night," he whispered. "When they think I'm asleep." That word did more damage than the note ever could. I wanted to ask more, but his eyes filled and I stopped. Children carry secrets differently. You pull too hard and they shatter. "It's okay," I said. "You did the right thing." He looked at me, searching my face. "Promise you won't tell." "I promise," I said. It wasn't a lie, it just wasn't the whole truth. I didn't sleep that night. At dawn, I got dressed quietly and drove across town, the roads empty and gray. The storage facility sat near the old industrial strip, tucked behind a shuttered factory. Same place. Same peeling sign, same sense of regret pressing against my ribs. I parked and sat there for a full minute before getting out. Unit numbers marched in neat rows. I walked past 231, 233, 235. Then I stopped. The lock was newer than I expected. Heavy duty, recently oiled. That alone was enough to tell me I was in deeper than I wanted to be. I didn't have a key. But I did have the name of the facility manager, an old acquaintance from years back. I walked to the office, rehearsing excuses in my head. Lost paperwork, family mix-up, simple lies. He recognized me immediately, smiled too easily. "Didn't think I'd see you again," he said. "Life's funny," I replied. I asked about Unit 237 like it was nothing, like I didn't already feel sick. He checked the system. "Still active," he said. "Paid up through the month." "Who's the renter?" I asked casually. He hesitated. "Privacy rules," he said. "You know how it is." I nodded. Of course, I turned to leave. "Richard," he added, lowering his voice, "you might want to be careful." I stopped. "That unit's been accessed a lot, late hours." "By who?" I asked. He didn't answer. That was my answer. I went back to my car and sat there, gripping the steering wheel, weighing a decision I didn't want to make. Walk away and pretend I never saw the note. Or find a way inside and face whatever had survived all these years without me. By noon, I had bolt cutters. I waited until the place was quiet again, then walked back down the lane. My hands shook as I snapped the lock. The sound echoed louder than it should have. I lifted the metal door. At first, all I saw were boxes, stacked neatly, labeled carefully. Then my eyes adjusted. And I gasped because the first box on top wasn't storage. It was evidence, photos, documents, and a small backpack I recognized instantly. The same one my grandson had brought home from school last year and then claimed he'd lost. I stepped back, heart pounding, scanning the lane behind me. Someone had been using this place recently. And they hadn't expected me to find it. As I reached for the box, my phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. Close the door. Step away. This doesn't concern you. I froze. Whoever was on the other end knew exactly where I was. And suddenly, the note from my grandson didn't feel like a warning anymore. It felt like a rescue. I didn't close the door. That text told me to step away, and for half a second, I almost listened. Instinct screamed at me to do exactly what I was told, to lock the metal door back down and drive away like a coward with good excuses. But then I thought about my grandson's hands, cold, shaking. Too careful for a child, I stepped inside Unit 237 and pulled the door halfway down, just enough to hide the gap. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure someone outside could hear it. The air inside smelled stale, dust and metal and something faintly chemical. I crouched beside the first box and lifted the lid. Folders, neatly arranged, alphabetized. Names jumped out at me, some familiar, some not. Addresses, dates, notes written in different handwriting. This wasn't random storage. This was a system. I flipped one folder open. Photographs slid out, not posed, not professional, taken from a distance, through windows from parked cars. My throat tightened. I recognized the street in one of them, a playground in another. And then I saw it, my own driveway, captured from across the road, timestamped late at night. My house. I forced myself to keep breathing. The backpack sat in the corner like an accusation. I unzipped it slowly. Inside were school papers, a water bottle, a small toy dinosaur with one broken leg, my grandson's. He hadn't lost it. Someone had taken it. My phone buzzed again. You were warned, I typed back before fear could stop me. Who are you? 3 dots appeared, paused, disappeared. I waited, crouched in the dark, counting my breaths. Then another message. Someone who's been watching longer than you think. I snapped photos of everything as fast as I could. Boxes, labels, the backpack, the folders. Evidence doesn't protect you if it stays hidden. Footsteps echoed outside. I killed my phone screen and held still. A shadow passed under the half-closed door. Then another, voices low and tense. They said he wouldn't come, one whispered. He did, the other replied. He always does. My blood ran cold, they knew me. The footsteps moved away. I waited another minute, maybe 2, before slipping out, lowering the door completely this time, forcing myself to move slowly, normally. I drove home the long way, checking my mirrors at every stoplight. When I pulled into my driveway, my grandson was sitting on the porch, swinging his legs. You went, he said. Yes, I replied. He swallowed. Did you see it? I did, he nodded, like that confirmed something he already knew. They told me you'd be mad. At who? I asked. He looked down. At me. I sat beside him. You did exactly right. He hesitated. They said if I told anyone else, they'd take it somewhere worse. Who said that? I asked carefully. He shrugged. The man with the quiet shoes. That description chilled me more than a name ever could. Inside, I showed Linda the photos, her face drained of color. This isn't just about us, she whispered. This is organized, I nodded, and they're using a child. We called a lawyer, then the police. The police listened, took notes, promised to look into it. I'd heard that phrase before. It never meant quickly. That night I barely slept. At 1:14 a.m. my security camera pinged, motion detected. I watched the live feed, heart racing. A man stood at the edge of my yard. Face hidden under a cap, hands in pockets, not doing anything, just standing there, watching. I called out through the speaker, "You're on camera." He tilted his head like he was amused. Then he walked away. The next morning, Unit 237 was empty, gone. Every box, every folder, every trace, the lock replaced, brand new. The manager wouldn't meet my eyes. They cleared it out last night, he said quietly. Didn't say where they were going. Who rented it? I demanded. He shook his head. I can't help you, but someone else could. That afternoon, a woman knocked on my door. Plain clothes, calm eyes. My name is Helen Ward, she said. I work with Child Protective Investigations. My stomach dropped. We received an anonymous tip about a storage unit and a child, she continued. And then another tip about intimidation. From who? I asked. She met my gaze. From someone who was afraid. My grandson peeked around the corner. Helen noticed immediately. I'd like to speak with him, with you present. He clutched my hand the whole time. He told her about the note, the visits, the warnings. He told her about the quiet shoes. When he finished, Helen closed her notebook. "You did the right thing," she said to him. "You're very brave." After she left, Linda whispered, "What happens now?" I looked at the empty driveway, the quiet street. "Now," I said, "they know we won't look away." That night, another message arrived. "You involved the wrong people." I typed back, "You involved a child." The response came instantly, "This isn't over." I stared at the screen, feeling a grim certainty settle in my chest. They were right. Whatever Unit 237 had been hiding was bigger than my family, and they were willing to scare a child to protect it. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a waiting room. Every sound carried weight. Every passing car slowed my breathing. I started noticing things I'd ignored for years: the angle of the streetlight, the blind spots near the fence, how easy it would be for someone to stand just out of view. My grandson sensed it too. Children always do. He stopped playing in the yard, stopped asking to ride his bike. He stayed close to the windows, peering out like he was searching for something he couldn't name. One evening he asked me, "Are they mad at me?" "No," I said too quickly. "They're scared." "Of what?" "Of being seen," I replied. That seemed to satisfy him, or at least quiet him. Helen returned 2 days later, this time with another woman. Older, sharper eyes, the kind of person who didn't waste words. "This is Mara," Helen said. "She specializes in long-term coercion cases." Mara didn't smile. She walked the house, checking locks, windows, camera angles. She asked questions that cut straight through politeness. "Who has access to the child? Who benefits from his silence? Who taught him not to tell?" She stopped in the living room and turned to me. "This wasn't opportunistic. This was intentional." I nodded. "They planned it. They tested him," she said. "Children are used as early warning systems. If the child stays quiet, the system holds. And if he does," she met my eyes, "then pressure increases." That night, my grandson woke up screaming. I ran to his room and found him sitting upright, eyes wide, breath ragged. "They were here," he cried. "They were in the hallway." "No one's here," I said, scanning the house. "He said I broke the rules," my grandson whispered. "He said you'd be sorry." "Who?" I asked gently. "The man with the quiet shoes." I stayed in his room until morning. At dawn, my phone rang. "Blocked number," I answered without speaking. "You don't understand what you walked into," a man said, calm, controlled. "Then explain it," I replied. A pause. "You found a node." "Not the network." "What does that mean?" "It means Unit 237 was one room in a much bigger house." My grip tightened. "Why my grandson?" Another pause, longer this time. "Because children notice patterns adults miss," he said, "and because adults hesitate to believe children." "You threatened him." "We corrected him," the man replied. "You're projecting fear." "I'm documenting it," I said. "Every word." He laughed softly. "Good, that means you're predictable." The call ended. An hour later, Mara called me. "They moved," she said. "Fast, too fast." "Where?" "Into the open." She explained that the emptying of the storage unit wasn't retreat, it was consolidation. Whatever they'd been collecting, watching, tracking, it was now being used. "For what?" I asked. "Leverage," she said. That afternoon, a letter arrived addressed to me. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. My grandson, at school, taken that morning. On the back, written neatly, "We know where he is safe. Don't change that." My hands shook so badly I had to sit down. Linda covered her mouth. "They're following him." I called Helen immediately. Within hours, there were new measures, different pickup times, escorts, extra eyes. But fear doesn't vanish just because you add protection. It sharpens. That evening, my grandson finally told me something he'd been holding back. "They asked me questions," he said quietly. "What kind of questions?" "About people, about who comes to our house, about when you leave." I closed my eyes. "Did you answer?" I asked. "Sometimes," he admitted. "When I didn't, they waited." "Where?" I whispered. "At the storage place, and once at school." That was the moment the fear turned into something else. Resolve. Because whatever this was, it had crossed a line that doesn't uncross. Mara helped me connect dots. The folders, the photos, the surveillance. "It's a private intelligence ring," she said. "Unofficial, off books, people pay for information, custody battles, business leverage, quiet threats." "And children?" I asked. "Children are unassuming," she said. "They're perfect couriers of silence." I felt sick. That night I made a decision I'd been avoiding. I contacted a journalist, not a blogger, not a talk show. Someone who understood exposure as a weapon. I didn't give everything, just enough. The next morning, things escalated. A car followed me for 3 blocks. A stranger asked my grandson his name at a park. My email filled with blank messages, nothing written, just sent. Pressure. Then came the mistake. A man approached me at the grocery store, too close. Too confident, you're not as careful as you think, he said quietly, passing me in the aisle. I turned. Neither are you, I replied. He froze, because he hadn't expected me to recognize him. The quiet shoes, I memorized his face. That face went straight to the journalist, and 2 days later something shifted. The calls stopped, the car disappeared. And Helen called me with a different tone in her voice. They're scrambling, she said. Someone higher up noticed. Is that good? I asked. It means they're scared, she replied. But it also means they may try to cut loose ends. I looked at my grandson, drawing quietly at the table. We're not an end, I said. We're the beginning. Helen was silent for a moment. Then be ready, she said, because the next move won't be subtle. That night my phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. You should have stayed curious, not brave. I typed back without hesitation. You should have stayed away from children. The reply didn't come, but I knew. The final confrontation was coming, and this time it wouldn't happen in the dark. The article didn't drop quietly. It never does. It went live on a Tuesday morning, buried halfway down a major outlet's homepage, just another headline among dozens. But within hours it climbed. Shared once, then twice, then 100 times by people who recognized pieces of themselves in it. Private surveillance network accused of using children as silent observers. No names yet. No locations, just patterns. By noon my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Unknown numbers, blocked numbers, silence calls that rang once and died. Mara warned me not to answer any of them. They're measuring panic, she said. Don't give them data. At 3:14 p.m. Helen called. Her voice was tight, focused. They made a move, she said. We intercepted it. Intercepted what? I asked. A removal request. My stomach dropped. For who? For your grandson. Time slowed. They tried to frame it as a protective relocation, Helen continued. Anonymous report. Claimed you were exposing him to danger. And, I asked, and they were sloppy, she said. They used language we've already flagged. I sat down hard. That night 2 unmarked vehicles parked at opposite ends of our street. Not hiding, watching. Linda noticed immediately. Are those? Yes, I said, but not for us. Not anymore. The next morning subpoenas went out. Quietly, rapidly. The journalist had done more than publish, she'd coordinated. Emails, payment trails, shell companies tied to storage facilities. Unit 237 wasn't a mistake. It was a hub. Mara walked me through it piece by piece. They don't just watch, she said. They catalog, build leverage profiles. Who's vulnerable, who's valuable. Who can be nudged, and the children, I asked. They're used as proximity sensors, she said. Unnoticed, unquestioned. My grandson sat at the table coloring while she spoke. The cruelty of that contrast nearly broke me. Then came the knock, not at night, not secretive, broad daylight. 2 people stood on the porch. The man with the quiet shoes was one of them. The other wore a suit. I'd like a word, the suited man said calmly. Off the record. There is no off the record, I replied. He smiled thinly. You're misunderstanding the situation. No, I said. I understand it very clearly now. The man with the quiet shoes wouldn't meet my eyes. The suited man lowered his voice. This is spiraling. We prefer to contain it. You mean silence it, I said. We mean protect everyone involved, he replied, including the child. I laughed once, short, bitter. You protected yourselves, I said. By scaring a boy. The suited man's smile vanished. You don't know how many people rely on this system. Then you built a bad system, I said. He stepped closer. If you cooperate, this ends cleanly. Behind me, I heard my grandson's footsteps. He stopped just inside the doorway. The man with the quiet shoes finally looked up. And for the first time, he looked afraid. No, I said, stepping forward, you don't get near him. The suited man exhaled. This doesn't have to get ugly. It already did, I replied. You involved a child. Silence stretched. Then the suited man straightened his jacket. You've made your choice, he said. Yes, I replied. I chose daylight. They left without another word. That evening, arrests began. Not dramatic ones. No flashing lights outside my house. Quiet, methodical. Emails seized. Accounts frozen. Facilities raided. The journalist called me at midnight. They're collapsing, she said, faster than expected. Why? I asked. Because systems like this depend on silence, she replied. And you broke it. The next day, Helen returned. She knelt in front of my grandson. You helped a lot of people, she told him. He frowned. I didn't do anything. She smiled gently. Exactly. When the investigation findings were released, the language was clinical. Improper surveillance, coercive intimidation, exploitation of minors. But behind those words were faces, names. Lives, Unit 237 was mentioned once, buried in a footnote. That number would never leave me. A week later, the man with the quiet shoes was identified. He didn't fight it. People like him never do once the structure collapses. Linda asked me one night, "Do you feel safe?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said slowly. "But more than that, I feel finished." "Finished?" she asked. "With pretending this wasn't happening," I replied. My grandson slept peacefully that night for the first time in weeks. No nightmares. No hallway shadows, just sleep. And that told me everything I needed to know, because whatever fear had lived in our house before, it didn't anymore. The noise faded faster than I expected. One day the story was everywhere: panels, follow-ups, experts arguing over terms and implications. The next day it slipped behind newer headlines, newer outrages. That's how it always goes. The world absorbs shock, then moves on, but we didn't. For us, the silence that followed wasn't relief, it was unfamiliar. Like stepping out of a room where a machine had been running nonstop and realizing you, de-grown used to the hum. My grandson kept asking the same question. "Are they gone?" I never answered with certainty. I said, "They can't hurt you anymore." That was the truth I could stand behind. Mara stayed in touch, though her role shifted. Less protection. More documentation. She explained how dismantled networks don't disappear, they fracture. "Pieces scatter," she said over coffee one afternoon. "Most fade. A few resurface. Should we worry?" I asked. She considered it. "You should stay aware, not afraid." Awareness. That word mattered. Emily, my daughter, called me from across the country. She'd been following the coverage quietly, reading between lines, recognizing patterns. "I feel sick," she said, knowing how close it was, knowing he was used. "You didn't know," I told her. "None of us did, but you acted," she said. "That matters." At home, routines returned slowly. Breakfasts without scanning windows, walks without counting footsteps behind us. Nights without checking locks twice. But trauma doesn't vanish on schedule. My grandson still jumped when doors slammed, still froze when adults spoke in low voices. Still asked permission for things he never needed permission for. One afternoon, I found him sitting in the garage, staring at a box of old tools. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "They watch people," he said suddenly. "Do you think people watched me before them?" I sat beside him on the concrete floor. "No," I said firmly. "And no one gets to do that now." He nodded but didn't look convinced. That's when I realized something important. Justice doesn't erase fear. It gives you room to work through it. The journalist checked in once more. "They're prosecuting 3 more linked cases," she said. "Your information unlocked a lot." "Good," I replied, "but don't use his name." "I won't," she promised. He stays a shadow. A shadow felt safer than a spotlight. Weeks later, a letter arrived from a stranger. No threats, no demands, just a handwritten note. "Thank you for speaking." They were doing this to my niece too. She's safe now. I sat at the kitchen table holding that letter for a long time. One child had told, another had been freed. That was the math I could live with. But consequences don't stop with villains. There were days I questioned myself. Did I expose my family too much? Did I push when patience would have worked? Did I risk him by acting? Those doubts came late at night when certainty dissolves. Linda noticed once. "You're replaying it," she said. "I keep thinking about the storage unit," I admitted. "About how close it was." She took my hand. "And you keep forgetting how far you went." That helped. So did therapy for all of us. Not because we were broken, because we'd been bent. My grandson learned words for feelings he'd buried. Fear, confusion, relief. One evening he handed me something, a folded paper. I froze. He smiled quickly. "It's okay. This one's not a secret." Inside was a drawing, a storage building, a big red X over one door, and our house drawn larger than everything else. On the back he'd written, "This is where I live now." I swallowed hard. The world tried to pull us back into normalcy, but I wasn't the same man who'd opened Unit 237. I noticed people more, paid attention to small behaviors. Asked questions others skipped, and I spoke up more than I used to, not loudly, just clearly. One afternoon Helen called. "Case is officially closed," she said. "At least the part tied to you." I thanked her. Before hanging up, she added, "You should know, most people wouldn't have believed the child." "I did," I said. "That made all the difference," she replied. That night, after my grandson went to bed, I stood in the garage alone. I thought about the note he'd slipped me, how small it was. How easily I could have ignored it, how everything depended on that moment. And I realized something else. This wasn't about bravery. It was about listening. Listening when it's uncomfortable. Listening when it's inconvenient. Listening when the voice is quiet and shaking. because systems fail, adults hesitate, but children notice. And sometimes all it takes to bring down something rotten is one person willing to open the door, even when they're afraid of what's inside. The storage facility shut down quietly, no announcement. No sign. One morning, the gate was simply locked, the office dark, the faded numbers peeled from the metal doors. Unit 237 disappeared like it had never existed. But places don't vanish just because the doors close. They linger in the body, in the way you breathe when you pass an industrial strip, in the way your hands tighten when a number repeats itself in the wild. Months passed. The seasons changed without asking permission. My grandson grew taller. His voice deepened just enough that strangers started mistaking him for older than he was. He stopped sleeping with the hallway light on, stopped checking behind doors, stopped whispering. One evening we sat on the porch together, watching fireflies flicker in the yard. "Do you ever think about it?" he asked. "Yes," I said honestly. "Me too," he said. "But it doesn't feel scary anymore." That was how I knew we were healing. Not because the memory was gone, but because it no longer owned us. The investigations wrapped up one by one. Some names never became public. Some consequences never made headlines. That used to bother me. It doesn't anymore. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet prevention. The journalist sent one final message before moving on to her next story. "You changed how I look at tips from kids," she wrote. "I won't ignore them again. That mattered more than awards ever could." Emily visited in early spring. She hugged her son tightly, then pulled back and looked at him with a seriousness that surprised me. "I'm proud of you," she said. "For what?" he asked. "For telling the truth when it was hard." He shrugged, embarrassed. "I just didn't want it to keep happening." That was the difference between adults and children. Adults calculate risk. Children recognize wrong. We took a walk by the river that afternoon. Emily and I lagged behind while my grandson skipped stones ahead of us. "I keep thinking about how close I was to missing it," she said quietly. "The note?" I asked. She nodded. "What if he hadn't trusted you?" I watched her son laugh at a stone that skipped farther than expected. "Then he would have found someone else," I said. "Kids know who listens." She swallowed. "I wish I listened sooner." "You are now," I said. "That's what counts." Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The house felt settled, not tense. Not alert, just lived in. I thought about the man with the quiet shoes, about how ordinary he'd looked, how easily he blended in. Evil rarely announces itself, it borrows normal faces. I used to believe that safety came from avoiding trouble. Now I understood something different. Safety comes from attention, from noticing when a child stops playing, from hearing fear in a whisper, from taking notes seriously, especially the small ones. A few weeks later, my grandson asked if he could help clean the garage. We sorted through old boxes, tools, Christmas decorations. Forgotten junk. At the back, he found an empty folder. "What's this?" he asked. "Nothing important," I said. He studied it for a moment, then placed it in the trash. "Good," he said. "Some things don't need saving." I smiled. On the anniversary of the day he slipped me the note, I took him out for breakfast, just the two of us, pancakes, syrup everywhere, laughing too loud. At the end, he slid something across the table. Another note. My chest tightened for half a second, then I opened it. "Thank you for believing me," that was all. I folded it carefully and put it in my wallet. Some notes you don't throw away. That afternoon, I drove past the old storage facility without slowing down. No pull in my chest, no urge to look. Just pavement and sky. I realized then that the story wasn't about Unit 237 anymore. It never really was. It was about the moment a child decided silence wasn't safe. And the moment an adult chose to listen instead of dismiss. We didn't defeat some grand evil empire. We didn't save the world. We protected one child. And in doing that, we exposed something that relied on people looking away. That's how real change happens. Not with speeches, not with heroes, but with attention, with belief. With a folded note passed quietly from a child's hand to someone willing to open it. And if there's one thing I know now, it's this. When a child whispers and asks you to look, you look. Because sometimes that's the difference between a secret surviving and a truth finally being free.